Hi, and welcome to part two of the outdoor sculpture garden. We have been working on this idea of talking about the difference between an indoor and outdoor sculpture garden. Students have been working on this concept of perspective and even atmospheric perspective. We started with a horizon line, we started with a vanishing point, started to show an outdoor kind of a uh, sloping kind of a walkway. We put in two three-dimensional boxes with diagonal or orthogonal lines. Those are the lines that go towards a vanishing point. We used our ruler to make sure that all of those lines went directly to the vanishing point. We started to put in trees, making sure that they were, if they're in the foreground, they're larger. If they're towards the middle ground background, they get smaller and smaller towards the background. Now, after we were done with that, then we started to use a fine tip Sharpie. This is where the magic started to come in. We got to add all kinds of texture to some of these beautiful trees. Now, did students have to do the exact same kinds of trees? Absolutely not. But the main idea was to make sure that you are doing your personal best. I'm going to put in a little bit of texture in the road here. It would look a little bit odd if everything was just flat, right? So I'm just going to add a few little areas here into the background. I think I also might do that, just a few little tufts here and there in the grassy areas. Okay, now I know that the grass is going to be darker here, lighter towards the background. Because of atmospheric perspective. So let's take a look. We're going to start to use watercolors. Now, just a few basics with watercolors. People look at this and they're like, oh, Miss Mozingo, I'm totally out of red. Well, newsflash, that is actually still paint. We just need to use water to activate it. If you notice something like this, you can just get a wet paper towel. And I just happen to have a rag right here to kind of show you, just a wet rag. This one right here, see how there's a little bit of blue that's kind of splashed in there? If I just use some sort of wet rag, wet paper towel, and then quickly clean it out, it's good to go. Same thing right here. I can just quickly kind of clean it out, and you're good to go. Okay, so sometimes just need a little bit of TLC to take care, tender love and care, to take care of our things. All right, now typical painting, here we go. Watercolor, I'm going to use a round head brush. Remember, a couple different brush types. This is a round head. This would be considered a flat head, a larger kind of a flat head. We know brushes also have numbers on the bottom here that tells about the size. We've got synthetic brushes, and then we've also got natural haired bristle. I tend to like synthetic because those tend to be a little bit smoother. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just dig right in. I'm going to paint always, 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 always biggest areas first, details last. So I'm going to go ahead right away. I'm going to start to get a little bit of water here. I'm just going to put it right on top so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to start to pull in some of these greens right away. But I'm going to do some of these darker greens. Now, a couple things I could, and we did this when we were doing those blob monsters maybe a little bit earlier in the year. I'm just going to start with even a wash. And I'm going to start to pull in, oh, the color, oh, I like this. It's even like kind of a blue-green, but watch this. I'm going to add in this other green. Here's the beautiful part about watercolor paint, right? I'm going to blend this together. And I'm going to keep going up. Okay, because I don't want to run out of the color. Check this out. I'm actually going to add in a little bit of this brown. And what's going to happen, it's going to start to turn kind of this olivey color, brown. So it's darker towards the bottom. And as it goes into the distance, it's going to get a little bit lighter and lighter and lighter. Now, I would say this would be bad version if I'm starting to just put dry on dry. So make sure that you've got the water. It's called watercolor for a reason, because you're using the water to move the paint around. So largest areas first. Okay, and then let that area just dry. Okay, I'm not going to start on the trees yet. Why would I not want to start to paint some of those trees yet? You're right if you said they would start to kind of like bleed, that paint would start to bleed into what I've already done here. So I'm going to go ahead right now, and I might even do this because I'm a right-handed person. I'm just going to flip my paper. Now I know to paint darker here. Sometimes I flip my paper around just because I know. I'm going to do my water wash first. So this would be called a color wash. So I add my water first. Okay, that's a little bit too lime. So that would just be like my base color. Okay, I'm going to add in a little bit more of this. This is more of almost like an aqua blue-green that kind of tones it down a little bit. This is the beautiful part about watercolor. You can start to mix. Now, if you ever have a color that you don't like right away and it goes on there, what could you do? If you said you could grab a paper towel and dab it away, you're totally right. Okay, if you said throw away your paper, not so right, because that's kind of wasting paper. Remember, oh, like this right there. Check it out. I'm just actually going to I'm going to put some over here to even it out. I'm going to add some water, and what that does, it just kind of minimizes the color a little bit there. That's great. Okay, and it's always better to make it light to start with than too dark. Okay, sometimes people make the mistake, they just start to go in there with just too dark of colors right away. That's the number one mistake with watercolor. Okay, so let me just turn this right side up. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So right away, I've got kind of the biggest areas first. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. My next biggest area is really the sky. So a couple things. Some of these blues, I'll be honest, these blues are the best. Some of these blues up here, really, really, I don't know what it is about that blue, but it's a really faded blue. Not so good. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna do a wash right now with color, with water rather. I'm gonna add in some water here and let's start to see. There we go. I don't even see any on this other side, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go along here. Now, same thing, a little bit on the side there, and that's it. Now I rip the paper, that's why it's making that kind of look. Now, typically in atmospheric perspective, it's darker on the top, and then it's lighter as it gets towards the horizon line. Ooh, that looks good. And I didn't even put any clouds in there, so that's okay. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going here. All right, let's start to move into some of the trees. I'm going to start to do some of those branches. And again, keep it light. It's almost getting a little bit too dark, so I'm going to wash it out. I'm just going to use wet. There, that's a little bit better. There. And then let it dry. Yeah, keep it light, keep it light, keep it light. Okay, keep it light. Okay. Okay, you can also start to go in, maybe do one more layer. Okay. Okay, let it dry off. Here we go. Now I'm going to start to go into these trees. Hopefully they've started to dry on the outsides a little bit more. So again, think about watercolor is all about doing it in layers. Painting in general is kind of about layers. Go really, really gently at first. You can always go darker. It's easy to go light, then dark. Always paint the biggest areas first. Now, if I want these to be black, or if I want these to be gray, am I going to go right into that black right away? And no, I'm going to do a water wash. Okay, I have a feeling some people might kind of overdo this. I'm just going to grab a little bit of the black, and really lightly go over it. Now, do I wish I had a paper towel? Yes. And tell you what, I'm going to grab one really fast. A little paper towel, a little dab will do. Or a Kleenex. Quick! Because, watch this. Okay, that's 100% better. There. Just kind of dab it away. Got it. Same thing. A little bit on the edges. Catch it before it goes outside of the lines. Remember, have it straight up and down if you want those skinny little lines. Oh, there it is before it goes outside. Okay, this should be your best quality work. Okay, that looks pretty darn good. Now, roadway is the last one. Again, largest area. I'm thinking a little bit more natural. So you could do your water wash. Could be some of the browns. Could be a gray. Okay, but think about how might you, I might go into some of the tans rather. Okay, how might you keep it just nice and light to start with? There, I'm starting to mix in some of the browns here. Maybe I'll go some of the tans. There we go. That's a little bit better. And remember, if you don't like a color when it's still wet, what could you always do? Wipe it away with a little tissue or a paper towel. I actually kind of like that. But I think I'm going to start to work in here some of the tans to start to go up that way. So eventually, when this is all done, what you're going to start to do, we're going to then start to add in some of those three-dimensional objects. Okay, those three-dimensional objects are going to act like the sculptures, and we're going to start to photograph them. That's the goal, that we can get that far. But this is part 2. Let's get painting. Okay, love you. Bye.